Welcome to Play by Players, an MLSPA podcast. This show is brought to you by the players and is all about the players, both past and present, who have plied their trade in MLS. You'll hear about each player's journey into the game, their careers and life after the game, on the field and off. It's all on the table. Now here's your host, former MLS player, Bobby Boswell.
Welcome to another episode of Play by Players. I am your host, Bobby Boswell. Today's guest comes to us with a long and illustrious career already under his belt. And before you think I've got some old gray-haired guy like myself on the podcast, know that this man is only 27 years old and playing some of the best soccer of his career. He has played over 325 MLS games with the New England Revolution and Austin FC. He was the youngest player in MLS to reach 300 appearances. He is in the elite 50 goals, 50 assists club. He is a fan favorite in New England and a current fan favorite for Austin FC. Please welcome to the podcast, Diego Fagúndez.
Hey, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I was before we started, I was looking at your setup there. What tell us about that room you're in right now? It looks like you got a gaming chair.
Yeah, this is my gaming room. This is where I get away from soccer a little bit, especially the day of the game, just to come out here, game a little bit, stream a little bit. Sometimes I even watch soccer games here because I have a couch in the back, relax, get away from the kids, you know. It's my getaway. I even have a little lock on the door where you need a passcode so no one can bother me.
There you go. You went from like maybe a man cave up in the Northeast to just like a man room in Texas, right?
Exactly.
All right. Well, I made sure to call you a man in the opening because you are a man. But when I think back to playing against you, I was there for playing against you when you were 15 years old, 16 years old. And I just remember going into any game and I was like, I cannot believe I'm going to have to chase this kid around for 90 plus minutes. So it's surreal for me as a former player to think that you've been in the league over a decade. How do you feel? Do you still feel like a young spry buck, or are you kind of like I'm both that and a veteran at the same time?
I think I'm both. I think sometimes I feel young, sometimes I feel old. It all depends who I'm talking to. It's actually funny you say that because I was talking to some people and there's not a lot of players from when I first started in this league. And it's just crazy. People don't realize that I'm only 27. They think I'm 30 or 31, and here I am. I'm still haven't hit prime yet. So hopefully I can keep going. And like you said, I feel good right now. Body feels good. And that's the best way to feel right now.
Yeah, that's the most important part, right? As long as the body holds up, everything else is good. A lot of those guys that aren't in the league anymore are now coaches. So I'm sure every trip you go on, you probably know one of the opposing coaches or assistant coaches. That's got to be pretty cool. I always like to say when, I prepare for these things, and in your story, in your case, it was really interesting. We've got some people that always fact check me. I do my best. But for you, there's just so many records that you've held in the league because of your age and your longevity already. So for this podcast, I don't want to hear any of you guys jumping in my mentions saying I forgot this one or that one. I did my best to highlight the ones that caught my attention. But I also look at how long you're probably going to play. And when it's all said and done, after another decade, who knows what records you'll hold. And but let's talk about you. Let's take it back to the beginning. Your story is very interesting in that it starts in the soccer-rich continent, I'll say, and the soccer-rich country of Uruguay. For those that speak Gringo, that's Uruguay. Expand your horizons. But talk to me a little bit about what it was like. I know you moved pretty early, but just talk to the people that don't know much about Uruguay and what kind of country and what it's like.
No, Uruguay, there's only 3 million people there. It's not a really big country. It's not a rich country or anything, but soccer is passionate, and that's the one thing that brings people together. No matter who you are or where you come, when you go to the beach, you see people playing with a soccer ball, and then the conversation starts. So it's small, but everybody gets along. The culture there is amazing. We eat a lot of meat. We're always having barbecues outside. Not the barbecue we have here in Texas, but the asado kind of barbecue, we should say. And that culture, I still live it. Still do everything possible to teach it to my kids, and that's something that hopefully I can keep it going.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit about your family, more specifically on your parents more than your children. But I saw you moved away when you were 5. I saw a thing with your dad that was really interesting. We'll talk about your dad and his career. That he went to visit family in the U.S. and was like, we should do this, and it's kind of like, okay, yeah, let's go. And you end up moving to the Northeast. I always butcher names of cities from the Northeast. I'm gonna say, is it Leominster?
Leominster, yeah.
Leominster. Okay. Leominster, Massachusetts. I'm assuming that most of your memories growing up were in Massachusetts. Is that right?
Yeah, so when I was 5 years old, I came to the U.S. And my parents both my dad asked my mom, "Where do you want to live?" And she kind of pointed at the map in Massachusetts and literally pointed to Leominster. And in 2000, we actually moved there. And 2 years ago, not even 2 years, a year and a half ago, I basically moved out of there for the first time. So it's been quite a while to have there, a lot of memories there. I actually went back a couple weeks ago for a wedding, and it was actually nice to be back after a year and a half. But Texas is my new home right now. It's here. It's amazing. The weather.
Hey, we'll get into Texas. I like to point out that you are a notable person in Leominster. That's important, right? It's like where you're from. They recognize you. You're like a local celebrity. And for those that don't know, like in Texas, I feel like you have to explain to people because you say like I never left that Massachusetts other than traveling until 2 years ago. I'm sure Austin's a little more traveled than other parts of Texas, more cultured. But there's people in Texas where they say I'm from out west, and that's like 30 minutes west, meaning they don't have a good generalization of space and time.
It's funny because people here 20 minutes, 30 minutes is far for them. Back home, and when I was living in Leominster, I was driving 45 minutes to practice. That's not far. Here, you drive 25, 30 minutes. Like, whoa, wait a second.
That's just Austin, for the record, because you can't go anywhere. You can drive an hour in Houston, and you're on just the other side of Houston. So, but anyway, I love all the guys I've played with and guys from New England. You guys are not short of confidence, that's for sure. You grew up in the dynasty era of sports in that region. But, for me, the other thing that's really big is a lot of people from up that part of the country are really big into their family life. And when I told you, we talk about this a little. Your father obviously had a huge impact on your life outcome, and that he was a professional soccer player back in Uruguay. He was a goalkeeper. I'm assuming you had a ball attached to your foot from the day you could walk.
Basically, yeah. Since I was able to walk, maybe even I was born, they gave me a soccer ball. And ever since then, soccer was passion for me. My dad played it, so it's kind of, you couldn't run away from it. And my mom would go to the games while she was pregnant. And then when I was born, he played for a couple of years. And then after that, they decided he wanted to come visit his brother who lived here in Jersey. And he's like, you know what, maybe I could do this. And he retired and basically said, we're moving my family to the U.S. and hopefully for a better future. And at the end of the day, I think he feels that. He feels that he made the right decision. He especially after I was able to sign pro, I feel like he gave up something for me to be able to have the life that I have now, and my brother and my sister. So it's always special, and I always appreciate my parents with everything that they've done and help and support, because without them, I wouldn't be where I am now.
Yeah, and we'll get into something really cool that you did recently for your parents. You mentioned your siblings. Were they soccer players or athletes as well? I know, and I actually thought, didn't your mom play soccer for a little bit too?
Yeah, my mom played soccer. My brother tried it, tried being a goalkeeper, and he said just couldn't run, was too tired quick. So we decided to let him do whatever he wants. Then he joined the Army, which was nice for something for him to do. And then my sister did gymnastics her whole life. So we were a really sports family. But really it was only me, my mom, and my dad who played soccer.
And do all of them is it a family tradition to put chocolate milk into cereal, or is that something that just Diego did?
That's something Diego did. It doesn't do it anymore.
And for those that aren't aware, Diego was on a show called MLS 36. And that's a throwback to MLS maybe 2.0. And what it was they picked feature players from around the league, and they followed these guys for 36 hours before a game. It was the most hated thing by MLS coaches in the world, because at the time there wasn't a lot of media on what guys were doing. And here you've got this young Diego living his life at home. Yours was probably the most feel-good story. The only thing I'll say was you went out on a boat the day before a game. And I have to imagine that was not well received in the locker room.
You mean the day of the game?
The day of the game. Even better. And I have to imagine that was I feel like it was your episode, and then it just ended because they were like, no coach is agreeing to do this ever again.
I think mine might have been the last episode, to be honest. But I think when you're young, I think I was 17 at the time. I don't think you realize what you're supposed to be doing, what you're not supposed to be doing. And for me, I was just living life, like using some energy before the game. So I would go out there, ride a jet ski around and go around and just for 30, 40 minutes. And then I'd go home and then I rested basically. But I had to get a little bit something out. Now I do the opposite. Now I just sit here in my gaming room and game for a couple hours and relax and don't think about soccer at all.
Well, just so we're clear, I was older than you and I still didn't know. I was still making bad decisions. So, it's nothing to do with being 15, 16. It's person to person. But it sounds like you've corrected those wrongs. Let's talk about youth soccer. You play at Leominster Youth Soccer, then FC United, and you end up with the Boston Bolts, which has produced a lot of MLS talent, guys like Miles Robinson, Jay Heaps, Mike Vecito, Charlie Davies, Chris Tierney, Aaron Mon, Shannon Williams, and yourself, to name a few. Was that an MLS feeder program when you were there, or was it just becoming one of those?
No, it wasn't at all. I think it was just randomly that was probably the best club team there was. So when I started with town soccer, I was basically playing, doing well, scoring goals. And then I basically wanted to take another step. And someone told me to join club soccer. So then I joined FC United, played for a couple of years, won a couple of state cups and championships and stuff. And then from there, I basically said, what's the next step? And then the Bolts were probably the best team there. So I said, you know what, I'm going to join them. And I had a coach who's basically a brother who I joined them. So then it was an easy switch for me to go and join them. And I was there for a couple of years and then basically joined the Refs Academy.
Yeah. And how did it come about that you joined the academy? I think you were 13, 14 years old when that happened.
Yeah, so I joined the academy. I was 12, and I remember I just was playing a tournament, and we were in Connecticut, and someone told me, "Hey, come join the academy." And for me, I was like, do I really want to join? We're doing well. We have a good team. We've been winning a lot, and I didn't really know much about it. And then a friend of mine actually started playing for them, so I was like, all right, you know what? I'll go to the tryouts. And Mario Priat was the coach. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go. Mario, I know Mario from ODP. So I'm going to go and try out, and made the team, played for 2 years. I think the first year I scored 25 goals. Second year, I think I scored 27 goals, something like that. Had 2 really good years. And then everything just happened. The dream came true. It was just, I don't know if you want me to tell you exactly everything.
No. And when he says everything happened, he went on to sign the first homegrown contract ever with the New England Revolution at the age of 15. And I interrupted you there, but just walk us through how exciting was that for your family? How exciting was that for you? It sounds to me, a lot of your story, you kind of always expect, it sounds like you focus on the soccer, right? Like, I'm just going to go out and I'm going to play well. And these things seem to be taking care of themselves, but it still had to feel pretty good to sit back and go, wow, I'm one of the youngest players in the history of the United States, or MLS at the time, to sign a contract.
Yeah, I think when I was playing, it was just, I'm having fun. I'm playing, scoring goals. I knew what I wanted to do was be a professional soccer player. So that never changed. Since I went to school, I always told my teachers I'm going to be a professional soccer player. And of course, they always told you, no, you need to focus on education, go to college. But for me, I knew what I wanted, and I kept working hard. We would go to the park, we would do that. And then I remember one day we had a practice, and they told me that the general manager, which was Mike Burns at the time, said that they wanted to meet my parents because they haven't met them. And it was right before the Revs had a game, the first team. And so we went up to the suite, and it's me, my mom, my dad. I'm in the middle. I have a water bottle in my hand, and we're just talking. And then suddenly the words come out where they're like, "We want to offer you a first team contract." And I remember to myself, I had the water bottle, and I couldn't stop drinking. I just kept drinking. I didn't know what to say. My mom's crying next to me. My dad is crying and happy. And then we finally, like, those words finally hit us. And we're like, wow, we couldn't believe it. And it was like a dream come true. And then we were able to sign. My signature months later, my signature was on the contract, and my parents had to sign the contract. So it's actually pretty funny to like know that my parents had to sign the first contract with me.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's a family commitment. They're asking you to give up, that college experience. And so I think that's important. I've been very vocal about you're the success story. There's a lot of guys, and you've seen it throughout years, where they sign guys to contracts they probably shouldn't because they want to push that initiative. And, it's like you were the first one. And I want to say, there's maybe been 11 others since you, meaning they realize that this isn't for everybody. The pure talented guys, some of them make it, but a lot of the guys don't. And, you're asking them to give up some other part of their life. So it worked out for you. I played with Freddie Adu in DC when he was 15. He signed at 14. Were you aware of, that story and he was, probably still going then and but there was so much pressure put on him. Were you kind of aware of the good and the bad, or were you just more focused in an optimistic state of mind? Like, I'm going to make this, it's going to work because of who I am?
To be honest, everybody was telling me about the story, and of course I was hearing it and stuff, but I didn't really mind hearing it, the good and the bad, because at the end of the day, it's what I wanted to do. Did I want to go to college? No, of course. I wanted to be a professional soccer player. The one thing that I said to myself, I said, I'm going to finish high school. That's the one thing I wanted to do, is finish high school, because you never know how your career can go. It could be short, it could be long. It's one of those things. So I finished high school, and it was a struggle because I was traveling with the first team and doing night school basically, and doing online classes with the team while I was traveling. So it was tough, but I was able to graduate. But at the same time, like you said, everybody has a different story. Everybody has a different path. And maybe people pressured him to do things and push them hard. And it wasn't.
Yeah, we don't have to go into Freddie. I was just curious as to what your mindset was. And shout out to the Goodrich Academy, which is where you got your diploma from. Always give them credit for helping guys that aren't maybe the most traditional path. Let's talk about, you're 15 years old, 16 years old. You can't even drive, so you got to get driven to practice early on. But talk to us a little bit about living at home. And, did you ever move out of your parents' place? And, just walk listeners through what it was like in the early years, living in the basement of your parents' house, but you're a professional athlete.
So when I first signed, I was only 15 at the time, and it was like November 10th, I think 2010. That's when I signed. And they basically told me, look, finish the year with the academy. And so I did, and my parents would take me to practice and stuff. And in 2011, they're like, all right, we want you to start training with the first team. So I was 16, and I couldn't drive. So my parents basically drove me to practice, and that was an hour away, 115 miles. So it was 55 and 55 back. Basically, it was just something like that, or 60 miles there, 60 miles back. But it was just a long trip. And my mom would wake up in the morning, take me. She would wait for me outside, take a nap in the car, go shopping. My dad would do the same thing. It was a commitment for them. It was something that they had to do if this is what I wanted, if this is what they wanted out of me. So that's why I always appreciate everything my parents have done for me. But then it was 16. I had Matt Reese and as a teammate. I had Shari, Joseph, Chris Tierney. I had good Kevin Alston. I had good teammates over there that brought me under their wing and basically helped me grow as a player. But at the same time, they knew what age I was and what they could do to me. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, talk about finding your way in that team. You came in. The Stevie Nickel, Paul Mariner days were right. Leading up to you joining, and those guys were, whether it was them or the locker room. We've had several guys on this podcast that talk about how tough it was for young guys in that locker room, just because it was just the culture, the tradition. I'm curious, because you were so young, you might not have gotten the same treatment, but at the same time, you've been in a lot of locker rooms, guys. There's not a whole lot of preferential treatment. It's you're there to compete and take someone's job, so they're going to treat you the same whether you're 16 years old or 36 years old. What was the hardest part as such a young guy going into a locker room like that?
I think the hardest part was basically getting trust from them, because here I am, I'm 16 training with them, and of course I'm having fun. I'm out there doing things, and at first, I was nervous, and then you have some players come up to me and say, "Hey, just be yourself, play, have fun," and that's when everything got loose. And after that, your teammates are going to respect you. They're going to help you as much. You're going to joke around. So me being young I don't think it even mattered to them. They knew that I could play, and that's what mattered to them. So, which was huge. And that was a big part that helped me a lot. They knew I could score goals. They knew I could make plays. I think the hardest part was if I ever megged one of them or something, they always wanted to kick you and stuff, but it was part of it. I knew what I was going into, but I've always played against older people and bigger guys that if I got kicked, I got kicked. It was part of the game. I had to get used to it. It wasn't something that I would get mad or anything. I just stand up and do it again. And then I think they challenged me, and they made me a better player day by day and training by training. And they gave me the confidence to be one of them as well.
Yeah. And you said you signed in 2010. The next year is when you really join the team and start making some contributions. One of the sweeter videos out there is your dad kind of walking through the experience of your first game. You and I made our debut in MLS against Chivas USA. I always say, if there's a team you want to make your debut against, it's Chivas USA. We can make fun of them. Rest in peace, Chivas USA. But you drew a penalty, I think, in that game, and you scored a goal. You say you're worried about them trusting you, and then you go in there and do that. That had to be a really good way to start your career.
So I played a couple Open Cup games before those and stuff, and reserve games, because we had the reserve league back then. It was something that they were slowly getting me ready. And I remember after we played Philly in a reserve league game, they came up to me and they're like, "Hey, you're dressing this weekend." And I said, "I'm dressing? What, me?" And they're like, "Yeah, you're dressing." So I'm like, "Okay." So then, of course, the weekend comes and I get all dressed up, go to the game. Didn't really know what I had to do, because it was something new to me. And game started, and I think we were down 2-0 at the time. And I remember second half, and I'm on the bench warming up, and I think it was Stevie Nickel, I think it was. He pointed and he's like, "Come." And I was like, "Me?" And I was looking around like, "Are you talking to me?" And they were like, "Yeah." They said, "Yeah." And I was like, okay. So then I got nervous and stuff. Went, and then I remember I was standing at half, and I'm like, "All right, this is your day. This is the day everybody needs to know your name." And that's what I said to myself. I said, "This is the day everybody needs to know your name, what you can do." I went in there, minute 76. I think I drew a PK for Shari, and he was able to score. That was, I think, my second touch of the game. So that got me going, and I was boosted, and he was able to score. Then Chivas gets another goal on us, 3-1, and minute 86, Kevin Austin just hits a long ball, and Shawree's about to go header, and I was like, leave it. And he actually let it go, and little pull on the tug, and was able to slot with my left foot a goal. And I couldn't really celebrate. I tried to celebrate, and I remember everybody, come on, let's go. But it was just an emotional. I don't think it hit me till after the game, and that I actually scored in my first professional game. But it was kind of a bad one because we lost at the same time, so you couldn't really be happy or anything. But inside, you know that you did what you wanted, and you showed people that what your name was and what you could do.
Yeah, no, it was. I just think that's so cool, especially when guys have success early on. Just it builds the blocks. And again, a team where they don't really rely on young guys, it's got to send a great message to them, like this guy can handle the moment. So that's really cool. I wanted to kind of pivot, right? There's a lot to talk about in New England. We don't want to hunker down year to year. But before we do that, let's pivot back to the national team. I had seen online, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you talked about ODP. It sounded like you were kind of in the mix in the U.S. at like the 14, 15 type range. But, there's a lot online about what you did with Uruguay's youth national team and the U20s. So can you just tell me how do you end up playing for Uruguay in the South American Championships?
So when I first started with ODP and stuff, I basically made it to the top level that you can get there, national team basically. And I went to a couple of national team camps with the U.S. In Dallas. And my only issue was I wasn't a citizen, so I couldn't travel. And I didn't have, at the time, I didn't have my papers or anything. So I couldn't travel with them. So that kind of put me aside, and they basically said, look, we can't take you on these trips because of this reason. If not, you would have. So then I basically stopped doing ODP because I was already, my age group was done. And then my dad knew the coach for the U20 Uruguay, and my agent at the time basically started talking about me and stuff, and they saw a couple of videos, and they gave me a call up to go try out and go show what I have on a friendly, and did well. And then they invited me to go to the tournament and then the South American Championship in Uruguay too, which was amazing.
Yeah, no, it had to be awesome. You guys, y'all finished third in that. I think you started 2 games and played in 2 more. Argentina ends up winning that. I think Colombia got second, and y'all beat Brazil, I think, in the 3rd place game, which is really important down there because that set the stage for the U20 World Cup. I think y'all qualified for that, and then the Pan America Games. I always do my homework on. I love these tournaments just to see who the players are on the rosters and things like that. Some other notable names. I think Mauro Menotes was a Colombian on the Colombian team. Aro was on the Brazilian team. Those are MLS guys. And then your current teammate, Driussi, I don't pronounce his name, Sebastian Driussi, was for Argentina. Am I saying that really badly?
You actually said it perfect. So
okay, perfect. That's what I meant. So I think it's. I always say that these tournaments seem like such a big confidence boost for players, but 1, I don't think you were really short on confidence, and 2, you had been playing for a while, so it was one of those where maybe you didn't need it. But just kind of talk to the listeners and say, what was that tournament? What did it mean to you and your family, being where they're from and going back there to really play in one of the bigger tournaments that they hosted?
It's huge because my dad played in that tournament, so it's kind of it brought back a lot of memories to everybody that he was able to do that, and then for his son to be able to do that was something huge. So and then I remember just going to the games, and here I have 30, 40 people in the stands, my aunts, my uncles, cousins, everybody's watching these games, and was able to go and support me and stuff. So that was always nice. But I think no matter what national team you're representing, if you're that passion, that feeling is something special. So when I got my opportunity to go there and represent Uruguay, it was one of those things that you need to do everything you can to make sure that everybody knows that you're giving your all. And that's what I went and did. It was hard. I was away from family, and I think it it didn't really help me as much, because when you're close to family, you know, your mind is at a different place, you're happy and stuff, and going away for a long time and not being able to see them, or for them to go to the game is tough. But like I said, I think when you step on the field and you're representing a country, it's something that you need to show everything you have.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. You said we'd get back to New England. Just want to throw some numbers at you here. In 9 of the 10 seasons you played there, you played in 19 or more games. 8 of the 10 seasons you played in 20 or more games. 6 of the 10 seasons you played in 30 or more games. What that means to me is you didn't just play in a lot of games, you played a ton of minutes. If you had to summarize some of your best memories from your time there, what would you say you took with you, you know, as a New England Revolution player?
Well, definitely my first couple of years, that was a huge part of who I was. First scoring my first goal, and then after that, I was able to start a game, the next game, and I think I can brag that I scored against Casey Keller. I think I always say, like, I scored against Casey Keller. To me, that's amazing, because Casey Keller back in the day was amazing, and so it's shout out to him though too. I remember. Hey, after I scored against him, I remember he goes, "This little person scored on me on a header on a corner kick," and I had pink hair too. So imagine, like, you're gonna let him score. So that's definitely one of my best memories that I have. And then the year I scored 13 goals, I think I was 18 years old, and doing that was something special. The day that
the 2013 season, and then I think 14, right? Y'all go to MLS Cup.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep. And then I remember scoring my 25th goal in the league. That was the youngest player to get to 25, or not the first homegrown player to get to 25 or something like this. Or youngest.
I think you were youngest at 25 and youngest to 50. According to my notes.
Something like that. I don't really pay attention to those things. To me, I just want to do well for the team and score goals, and making sure that my career is long. I think it's nice to accomplish all these things. Like right now, I was looking for that 60-60, and I was able to hit that record, and now I'm the 13th player to get that in MLS, which is amazing. And now we're still looking for more. Hopefully get to 70-70, and then 80-80, 90-90, you know, just keep going up from that. So for me, I just need to keep doing well, keep playing the best soccer I can, and keep having fun.
Yeah, and one of the big ones there was also you tied. You talk about Shawry. I think anyone that played there, anyone that played with him or against him knows what kind of caliber player he was. You tied him for the all-time appearance leader in club history. And then we're going to move to Austin. But before we move to Austin, there is a really interesting thing about you. And I actually remember when this happened, because it created kind of a bit of buzz in the U.S. soccer community. In 2013, you got your green card. You kind of highlighted that there was an issue when you were with the U.S. Youth teams that you couldn't travel. Everyone was so excited because they're saying, oh, this kid's he's going to be he's already a great talent. He's going to be even a better talent. He's going to join the U.S. men's national team. But what they didn't realize was the naturalization laws were very stringent here in the U.S. And they didn't understand how a guy could be born in another country but live his whole life here and not be able to play for the country. And then you've got a guy that was born here, moves away a month later to Europe and lives in Europe his whole life, but is able to play for the U.S. in international competition. Were you aware of these things going on, these debates, and I call this like the big soccer threads, and I was aware of it as a player just because it was fascinating. Where it was like, wait a minute, this guy can't play here. It doesn't make any sense. Were you aware of these debates going on, and what were your thoughts on them?
Yeah, I was always aware. To be honest, it still happens now. You go on Twitter and people are debating, hey, why doesn't he play for the U.S. national team? And it was tough because if I had the chance, of course I would have played. I would have never said no. Even till now, if there was a way to swap and play for the U.S. national team, I would do it in a heartbeat, quick, and make it happen. And maybe there is, who knows? No one really knows the right answer. I think maybe lawyers or people who are involved in that are the only ones that know that answer. But I always said the only thing I can control is playing on the field, and everything else just happens on the outside. But yeah, these debates, these debates, I was always involved. I was always there. I was always checking them out. And for me, it was hard to take because here I am, I'm doing well with MLS, but I can't go to the national team. So, but it's like I said, all I can do is control what on the field, and that's it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you walking through that. I know it's not always easy to talk about that. People get really, really passionate, and it creates all kinds of. I mean, it stems off into his own leadership and things. But let's talk about your ending in New England. Right, you're there for 10 seasons. The coaching. There were a lot of coaching changes, good or bad. They are what they are. How did you end up deciding you didn't want to be there anymore? I know you qualified at such a young age because of your years of experience for a free agent, which I always say, hey, MLSPA, that's one of our victories, right? Is a guy like you is able to make a decision to reject a contract that he doesn't really like. But how did you decide it was time to leave New England?
To be honest, the decision really wasn't mine. I wanted to stay in New England. I was happy. My family was there. But I didn't feel, no offense to them, I didn't feel the coaching staff at the moment that they wanted me. They weren't using me at the right position. And then I had to decide basically, what did I want to do? I was a free agent. And at the time, like I said, I think that was a good victory that we could get because young players didn't really have those rights. And me being able to play all these years and be a free agent was huge at that moment. So then I remember me and my dad, we were just at the lake and we were talking. We're like, what's next? What do we do? And he goes, where do you want to go play? My dad's my agent. So I said, you know what? Austin would be amazing. It's a new team. It would be a perfect situation for me, something new. And the incredible part that someone must have been hearing me, because 3 days after I have this conversation at the lake with my dad, we get a phone call. And it's Claudio Reyna and Josh Wolf asking if I would be interested in coming. So it was like a wake-up call. It was meant to be. And then when they told me what they were expecting from me and what they wanted out of me, then it was kind of an easy decision to make. And we talked over the phone and emails and going back and forth, and we were able to make it work. And now here I am having a lot of fun here in Austin.
Yeah, so some would say you left for greener pastures. That's a terrible dad joke. That's part of what you get with me as the host. Talk to me a little bit. Obviously, you're excited about going down there, and they've got a plan for you, right? And I always say sometimes moving is really good for guys because the vision of the people that are there, they put you in a box, right? And now you get a fresh start. You signed a 1-year deal there, which I thought was interesting. It's almost like a prove it type of contract. And maybe I have that wrong, but let's talk about your entrance into Austin FC. You score the first goal in the history of the team, something that no one can take away from you, something that will forever be in the history books. You were their first ever man of the match in the first home game, scored the first ever goal in the Open Cup play against San Antonio. As far as I'm concerned, you've cemented yourself as a fan favorite from day one. I know you were a fan favorite in New England, but it's got to feel really cool with this expansion team. That you're the guy from the first whistle to be there and to kind of go through these crazy emotions.
Like you said, I think you said it the best way. Like being at a club for so long and giving it your all, and then suddenly not feeling the right way, then the move was probably the best thing for me. And I got here and they welcomed me with open arms. The fans right away opened me up. They invited me to do things. And then when the season started, I was very excited for it. The funny part about it all, that it's funny now, but it wasn't funny at the moment. It was that I wasn't supposed to be starting that game against Colorado because there was some issues with paperwork and a player that was there. Then I found out 20 minutes before the game that I was going to be starting. And I remember I looked at my trainer and I was like, hey, if I play today, I'm scoring. It was one of those days where I was feeling confident. I said that, and here it comes, minute 60. I was able to tap it in back post. And after that, it was just amazing. I felt like the team, the fans, everybody grew into me, and I was just wanted to give the most out of me. And I think between the coaching staff and this organization, they're taking the best out of me. They're challenging me to new things. And then this is why I'm playing my best soccer right now, probably in my career.
Yeah, and I'm a big vocal person that I'd like to try to go see all the new stadiums. I've been to a game in Austin, stayed at the Domain. What you guys have is lightning in a bottle, right? It's just an incredible atmosphere. I joke around and say my kids are Austin FC fans. Sorry to my Dynamo people, but they, for some reason, they went to the game and the atmosphere. They also love Aruti. That's their favorite player. But and he scored 2 goals. I think y'all played Vancouver. Anyway, it was just, it was a really, really cool experience. I can't encourage listeners enough. If you're going to go to an away game, Austin has got to be in the top, 2 cities that I would recommend. What's it been like from you? Like, I know that you love New England and you have a great history there, but to compare that experience for the fans versus the experience in Austin, it's not even in the same realm. It's MLS 1.0 to MLS 3.0. Just what's it like for you as a player to play your games there every other week?
It's amazing. We get chills going into that game. To games, we get a full house every game, no matter what the weather is. There's weather delays and fans are still there. It's amazing. We hear them all game, 90 minutes. They give their passion out. They do everything they can to make sure that they keep it going. And I think last year it was a tough year for us. We were a new team. Things weren't going the right way, but our fans stood by us and kept trying to get everything out of us. And I think that's one thing that I appreciate about it. My kids, like you said, your kids enjoy it as much. My kids, they know every song now. My daughter will look at the stands and say, I want to go there with Los Verdes at that behind the goal. And my dad has taken her there. That's what she loves. My son too. They go around the house. They're singing songs. They're chanting. I'm like, one of these days I'm going to put them as couples or something out there. So it's amazing to see. And I think the organization definitely did it the right way here. They built a specific stadium for us. They wanted the best out of us, and they're doing everything correct. And then the fans, they're just bringing in an A game every single game, no matter if we're home or away. All these traveling fans that we have are just amazing.
I know you talked about you were on the water, you're a big boater. You were boating up. It sounds like you were boating with your dad when you made the decision hey, maybe I want to go to Austin. I remember in the MLS 36, you had a huge pickup truck. It's almost like you were destined to be in Texas. Have you been able to, you're an avid outdoorsman. I know you like to fish. Have you been able to partake in some of the Texas lifestyle and were you prepared for how hot it was? And if so, are you able to enjoy the things that Austin and the surrounding areas can offer you?
To be honest, I think I was meant to be born, I think, in like Texas, to be honest. I have a big truck. I like hunting and fishing. I like being on the water, boating and stuff. So for me, coming to Texas was like another day. It was normal. I still have my truck from 2013. I still have it. And everybody's like, you got a big truck. I'm like, yeah, I've always had it, and it was just normal to me. And then you come here and everybody has a truck. There's not one person who doesn't have a truck. A lot of people, the outdoors, the hiking and stuff there's so much to do. And to be honest, I probably haven't even done 40% of it yet. So that's always exciting to know. I try to get out there as much as I can. When people invite me to do things, I always say yes. Even with fans, they're like, hey, let's go play soccer golf. Hey, let's go hike. Let's go do this. I'm like, yeah, let's go. I want to get to know the city. I want to get to do fun things and interact with people. And that's who I am as a person. I like to talk to new people and I like to experience new things. And that's something that in Austin they've gave me the chance to do. So hopefully I can get more out there, more fishing, because that's one thing that I definitely love to do. I haven't done a lot of it, but hopefully in the next year or so I can start getting more into it.
Well, yeah, if you're listening to this and you're in Austin, slide into his DMs, offer him to take him to do some cool stuff. You talked about moving away for the first time. I saw something, speaking of off the field things, that was really touched my heart. You were able to buy your parents a house in Austin, have your family come be closer. You talked about your dad taking your kids to games and things like that. Walk us through how that came about, and it's such a feel good story.
When we came to Austin, we drove from Boston all the way to Austin. So it was my truck and my dad, my best friend, my dog, and a trailer full of house things. And we came here, we rented an apartment, little townhouse. And when my parents came to visit, they kind of fell in love right away. They're like, "Oh, the heat is amazing." They were on vacation basically. So I was like, you know what, it's nice. I have a house in Boston, in Leominster, and I told them one day, I was like, "Hey, would you guys consider moving?" And they're like, "Yeah, why not?" They didn't even hesitate. They're like, "Yeah, why not?" And I was like, "All right, well, let's sell the house in Leominster and you guys move here." So they did. They lived with me for a couple months, and they actually didn't even know, but I was already building my house. But then at the same time, I started thinking, you know what? I'm gonna buy them a house. And my mom or dad didn't know. And I grabbed my realtor and we went to look at houses. Finally saw one. This is when the market was not the best here in Austin, but hey, we're still all happy. And I went to see one and I fell in love and I was like, this is the perfect house for my parents. It's a 3-bedroom small house for them. It's exactly what they needed. And we did everything possible so that they didn't know anything. Paperwork, everything was finally done. They gave me the keys. From when I signed all the paperwork, I went straight to them and I called my mom, like, "Hey, mom, can you and dad want to come check out a house that I'm looking at?" They didn't know I was already building, but so then I was like, "Hey, you want to come check out a house, see if you like it or not?" So my mom I go inside first. My mom and dad are behind, and my mom goes, "Oh, I think you showed me this one online. Yeah, this one's really nice." And I gave them the keys and I was like, "Well, enjoy your new home." And tears came. They couldn't believe it. My dad couldn't believe it. It was just something nice that I had to do. I wanted my parents close to me and something that they deserve. And to this day, they still do a lot of things for me. And that's something that is special. And that's why I wanted them close to me.
Yeah, when I saw that, I say, like, you have these MLS has made it moments, right? And I say that's, for me, that's one of them, where guys are buying their parents' houses. I think that was so cool. Just an awesome feel good story. And again, we highlight at the front, right? It's your family is very important to you, and it's kind of a theme throughout your journey. And it looks like they'll still be there for your journey going forward. Let's talk back to the team in Austin. It seems like you talked about how the coaching staff has gotten the best out of you and kind of reinvigorated you. It seems like you, just from afar watching, seems like you're physically stronger, and maybe that's something, the regiment of the team. It seems also, comparing New England to Austin, whether it's the city or the atmosphere, it seems like y'all are a little bit more laid back. The culture is very different than maybe where you were. I look at, like, your travel posts, right? You've got a big boom box, it seems like, and I want to say, like, a mate holder. Look, your team mate. I'm imagining with Drusi and Ruti and some other guys, y'all got like a pretty good group. For those that don't know what mate is, tell people it's part of your culture, it's part of your heritage. What is mate?
Yeah, I think it's a South American heritage because of the culture. And they do it in Brazil, they do it in Argentina, and they do it in Uruguay. I think Argentina and Uruguay are probably the two biggest places. And when you have players like Maxi Ruti, Seba Rossi, Emiliano Rigoni, and Felipe Martins, like, how can you not drink mate? And we're always together. We play cards together. We hang out together. We go out to eat together. We're doing everything together. So now that we're flying charter things to MLS, it's always nice that we can actually sit down, put music on the plane, hang out, talk, and just enjoy it. But mate, I think it's we get together, and it's basically, the best way to describe it is it's green tea in this cup. So that's the best way to describe it. It's hard, but if you don't know what mate is, I would consider just searching it up, how to make mate, and look it up. It's actually pretty neat. And it, like, when you drink it and stuff, it like helps you digest. It's there's a lot of good for it. People say it has caffeine. I don't really feel the caffeine in it. And I'm not even a coffee drinker, so for some people, it might have caffeine. They might feel it more than others. But I think for someone who drinks it every day, hot, cold, it doesn't matter what the temperature is. We're drinking hot mate every day.
I feel like we're going to get you a mate sponsorship after this podcast comes out. Let's, like I said, it seems maybe it was the transition to flying charter. That's a big help, but it just seems like a really fun, cool atmosphere. I know y'all have had a lot of success this year. You're currently in the race for the Supporters Shield. You're going to, look to make a big run at MLS Cup as the season winds down. We don't want to look past that, but we are in this on this segment. Your entire career has been filled with rumors. There's rumors that you were going to sign in Mexico. There's rumors you were going to sign in Italy. There's different European rumors. There were rumors you were going to sign in South America. What are your thoughts? I know you've been through the ringer, and some of those were the fees were too high for New England. $4 million was a number put on you back when no one had a price tag like that because of your age and your talent. Do you spend any time considering that? Have you thought about maybe playing in another league, or do you just focus on, what I'm in Austin, I'm in New England, I'm only focused on MLS right now because that's where I'm at?
To be honest, there was a lot of offers everywhere. There is a lot that came. My dad, as an agent, I think he did his work to make sure that didn't distract me, because that's the number one thing. Like, I need to focus on the field and helping the team, and everything else he deals with as my agent and my dad. So we do have conversations, and he's like, "Hey, look, like, this came through. What are you thinking?" And I got to a moment, yeah, like, sometimes it's nice to hear that teams want you and that they want to buy you, or they want you to go on loan or something. But at the end of the day, like, you need to focus on what you have in front of you. And that's one thing I told them this year. There was teams coming at me and they wanted me to go. And I basically told them, hey, till the end of the year, I'm not going to do anything. Let me finish the year strong. Let me keep winning games. Let me keep doing what I've been doing. And then once December comes and everything's over, then we can sit down and talk. And that's one thing I told my dad, and that's what he's like, okay, I'm gonna start telling everybody no. And is there my door, I would never close it. If there's teams that are always interested, of course I'm gonna hear from them, but at the same time, I'm gonna be respectful and make sure that I'm focused on what I have in front of me. Right now I'm under contract with Austin, so I need to keep focusing on that, and then at the end of the year, that's when we can sit down and talk to whoever.
Yeah, and I bring that up really because if you play your whole career in MLS, I expect you to shatter records, and that's the biggest thing, right? Is you started so young, and you started playing games so young. I highlighted earlier how many, I think you've this season it'll be like your 10th season, I think, playing over 30 games a season, which is crazy, and you're 27. So I highlight that because I think it's really important to be able to leave a legacy behind where you're going to leave records that maybe are going to be untouchable, for anybody. So that's really cool. Diego is on social media. He's posting pictures of his life, his family, boating, fishing, his new hairstyles, animals, his abs. Please follow along. If you enjoyed this podcast, please follow him. Again, because of his age, I would say He's a great guy. He's a great player. So you could follow him for the next 10 years probably, and he'll be around. I want to wish you good luck as the regular season comes to an end and into the postseason. I wish you well on your journey going forward. If the next 10 years, next 10 seasons, or anything like the last 12, you'll be more of a household name than you already are as one of the great, still young attacking players in MLS. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and sharing your story with our listeners. It was absolutely wonderful story. I'm glad you were able to tell everyone. That's Diego Fagúndez, everybody.
No, Bubby, I appreciate it. Thank you. Like I said, it's an amazing time. I just need to keep having fun. Hopefully many more years, hopefully many more records. And at the end of the day is making sure the body's healthy. And then in 10 years, you can come and interview me again. And hopefully we can talk about those records.
I'm gonna hold you to that. I'm looking forward to it. I think people will be blown away. So I'm looking forward to it.
That would be amazing, because that would be another generation.
That's right. You might be playing with your kids at that point. So
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Diego.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Play by Players. Visit playbyplayerspod.com for more episodes or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
This has been a production of the MLSPA. Learn more at mlsplayers.org.